PWF Empire is live on PWFempire.com. Jay and Duke here, and at this time I'd like to welcome a special guest to the show. He is the owner and operator of Wolfpack Fitness and known to wrestling fans around the world as a finalist from the most recent season of WWE Tough Enough, Luke Robinson. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Hey, my pleasure, guys.
So, I've been following you on Twitter, and I know that you have a lot to say about Tough Enough. And we were just chatting a bit before the show, and this is going to be your first opportunity to actually get the entire story out there, the legit story that we aren't too familiar with. So first off, I want to say I'm glad that you chose this as your platform to do so. And secondly, take it away. Whatever you need to say, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, guys. So the first thing I want to say is that I have a wonderful relationship with wrestling. It was a huge part of my life, a positive part of my life. And the same goes for the Tough Enough experience. If I were to tell my 15-year-old self that I would have one day I'd get to wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, be live on Monday Night Raw with Vince McMahon, it would be a dream come true. And that's exactly what it was. So when I tell you all this stuff, I just want to make sure you guys know that I still have a positive relationship with wrestling. I still watch wrestling. I still love it. But there's a big reason why it's not my dream anymore. It's not my goal anymore, and why I moved on. So to start from the beginning, I had done a couple WWE tryouts in Boston and New York. I actually got a call from the casting company, and they said I was on the WWE's radar for Tough Enough. And I was trained by Hall of Famer Tony Atlas. I called Tony. I said, they're interested in me doing a new season of Tough Enough, but I really don't want to do it because to me, the mystique of wrestling is that they don't know about your real life. He said, Luke, this might be your only opportunity. So I said, all right, well, if I'm going to do it and I make it into the finals of the casting, then I'm going to play my heel character the entire time on the show. So to get that out of the way, everything you see during interviews on the show is me healing it up, completely playing a character. Everything you see during in-ring training, I was very respectful in front of Steve and all the other trainers. So they never got to see that side of me until the show aired. They knew that, anytime I was doing drills, I would try to put a little bit of my heel persona. So they knew I had a little bit of that arrogance about me. So the first thing that happened when I started to notice something was going on was the third episode, I believe, when they named Martin the winner of that one challenge where I didn't shake his hand. And
yeah, I remember that moment.
Yeah, what I realized was this. I was so head and shoulders above of everybody else as far as being a complete package that the producers were almost getting panicky and going, okay, we need to create a story here. So in that specific spot, he couldn't jump for his leapfrog, fell over, and I shot a pin to give him time to rest. And remember, the trainers were like, oh, he's getting selfish. So I was like, really, I was legit perturbed, but then I realized, okay, they need a TV show. They need drama. So as the show progressed, remember, they put me in the bottom 3 a couple episodes later. In the house, just to kind of test my theory, I just start chugging back shots and booze just to see what they do. So finally, the producers pulled me aside. They go, what are you doing? We just did this for drama. You're going to be fine. So again, I got them to admit that they were playing a game with me. So again, if you watch all the episodes back, they almost are always, the trainers even are almost always talking about how Andy is, most of the challenges he's finishing like last in. Like, remember that balance one where we're up on the top rope? I mean, like legit last. And the only thing they really had good to say was that like he'd get angry for losing. Like, well, yeah, you should. So even all the way up to the last episode, they're still kind of in my favor, though. I remember, I've been watching along on the network, and they're still Steve is like, oh, man, of everybody, Luke, seems to bring that total package to the table. In the episode with The Rock, Bill even said, he's got that little swagger back. So, and what I started to do at that point was just remind myself, play your character, be a heel, act like you belong here. So this is where we get into the interesting stuff. The show ends, the primary filming. We had 9 weeks before we went to FCW, and where we taped we taped the FCW stuff, and then 2 weeks later we taped the live finale on Raw. About 2 weeks before we were flown to Florida for the FCW taping, I get a call from the executive producer, and he goes, who's Donnie Drake? What's this Donnie Drake stuff? Well, after college, I worked for 2 companies that market what they call custom videos to a homosexual audience. I'm fully clothed in normal wrestling gear. There's no sex acts. I could show it to my mom, okay? But they want attractive guys with muscles, and they market it to a homosexual audience. I put it on my background check, disclosed everything I've done, the websites, everything. If the money that I made there, if I hadn't, I wouldn't have been able to pursue a professional wrestling career. In fact, I made more money doing that than I ever made wrestling until after Tough Enough. Wasn't a secret. My whole family knew about it. Again, I never compromised my morals or values. But on the internet, of course, it got distorted to Luke did gay porn. So I get a call from the executive producer. He goes, what's this all about? I said, it's on my background check before you guys ever casted me. So that's kind of the big reveal of like what happened between the ending of primary filming and the taping of the FCW stuff and the live finale. So again, to me, if I was gay, what would it matter? Should that mean I'm not allowed to pursue my dreams? But again, I knew something was up in the finale when all the trainers went, when Steve goes, who do you think should win? And they all said Andy. I was like, what is going on? So I knew at that point, like legit, that something was a little odd. So the finale happens. Steve announces Andy the winner. And I feel like if you watch it back, it's kind of reluctant. He's like, the winner, Big Andy. When we hugged at the end, me and Steve, he said, you're going to be all right, kid. You got a future in this business. We go backstage. And first of all, I think it was a compliment anyway. He said, you remind me of a young Shawn Michaels and you're going to be just fine. Luke Robinson as a wrestling character is a monster heel. You don't need to be doing anything flashy. You're going to get over on the fact that people like to hate you. And so then he said something, and I don't know, I can't remember an exact quote, but it was something like, look, kid, I was in a tough spot on this. And he would not elaborate. And I didn't ask. And what I think he meant was that there was pressure from the PR department that they were nervous about how those videos I did would be interpreted. I think it was Mark Carano, one of the WWE executives, actually subscribed. You have to pay like $70 a pop for these videos. Again, the stuff I did, I'm in full wrestling gear, no sex acts, no nudity, but they subscribed to it so they could check out everything. And that company called me and said, hey, just so you know, the WWE subscribed to blah, blah, blah. They've been checking into it. Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, here's the, can I swear?
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
Go right ahead.
So it's a quote, but one of the guys that was trying out in FCW, he was down there and John Laurinaitis was down there and they were asking, hey, whatever happened to that Luke Robinson kid with Tough Enough? This is just a couple weeks after the finale. And he called me, one of my buddies that was down in Florida, and said, the direct quote from John Laurinaitis is, we don't need any of that homo shit here. And again, that was 4 years ago. So obviously you have Darren Young now, where now they use some of this PR stuff as, a positive light to paint the picture that they're a very philanthropic company. And Stephanie McMahon's admitted to, I think it was an interview in Forbes, who said the future of marketing is philanthropy. And of course, that's why they promote all this. And again, I'm not saying it's not wonderful, but they promote the anti-bullying and the Make-A-Wish. But the fact is there's a lot of bullying and, bad things that go on behind stage. And that's when I realized that, and even look at what Triple H said about China, and she's legit done porn. What I did is not, there's, again, no nudity, no sex acts. There's suggestive holds, no holds that you couldn't see on Monday Night Raw, though. But they just want attractive guys with abs showing off muscles, basically, the videos that I did. And again, it's never been something I've hidden. It's a great part of my life. The people I met have been wonderful there. And that's why I openly talk about it. So after the finale aired, Steve and I and the rest of the cast went back to the hotel bar. I apologized to the whole cast because they didn't know that I was being a jerk to them to play a character. Steve and I, as we were getting to the night, having a few drinks, said, look, you don't need to be doing that stuff anymore. And I said, well, I know. The reason I did it is so I could make a living while I was trying to pursue my dream. So he definitely knew about it, admitted it there, and, kind of said, hey, you don't need to be doing that anymore. But at that point, again, I think it was a PR decision that was something that was not good for the company. And if you Google me, someone even did, like, when you're a baby face selling, you're crawling up the heels, you're using his knee pads and his tights to pull yourself up. Yeah. Someone made like a crude Photoshop picture where they like white it out to make it look like,
wow.
You know what I'm saying? And so that got passed around the internet, and that's it. I mean, that's really my big reveal of, and again, what John Laurinaitis specifically said to a group of FCW talent. We talked about it. I talked about it with my family about pursuing a legal case, and I just decided that one, they'd probably milk you dry in courts and appeals and all that. You couldn't compete with them financially. And two, I said, my life's in such a happy place now that it's just not something I want to be a part of anymore. And I moved on. So that's my story, fellas.
Wow. I'm just sitting here trying to process all of this. And the big question that I have right now is, do you have any theories as to why they would let you progress so far? Well, first off, even put you on the show at all.
Yeah, they did not look into this until after primary filming aired. So that's what I said. When I got a call from the executive producer, they were just looking over my background. No. They hadn't even looked at that background check, at least not the executive producers. It's because the rumor mill on the internet started to come out with this gay porn rumor. And so that's when they had heard about it and called me, and I said, Doug, it's on my background check before I ever started the show. So it was.
So you provided them with the information. They just didn't check up on it.
Correct. Websites, with the websites, the dates, everything. Correct.
So really you say right now you're in a happy place. I'm wondering, what has this experience been like for you reliving Tough Enough? Is it cathartic or?
Well, one thing, I have hundreds of clients now. I run a health and wellness business, as you mentioned, called Wolfpack Fitness. It's very focused on what your body's capable of, not what the scale says or what you look like. It's very focused on the quality of the character, depth of the soul. We do a ton of community service, and I legitimately get to help lots of families change their lives. So it's cool watching back because a lot of my clients have never seen this part of my life. So it's kind of interesting watching back. I get a little bit uncomfortable watching it back because it's almost watching myself be so douchey. I'm kind of like, oh my God, that was, pretty douchey. But again, that was the idea. And the idea was to be that heel character and to use it as a way to be a catalyst for the show. Like any of the main kind of beats in the storyline, so to speak, were because of things that I did on the show. The producers knew because I was super sweet to them when the cameras were off. And we'd actually do double takes. Like if something didn't sound douchey enough, I'd redo it. And they knew 100%. They were in on it. But they knew that I was the only one smart enough to be playing a character. For instance, they did some takes where Jeremiah and I were legitimately became close friends on the show. Uh-huh. Towards the end, they said, look, in case Steve picks you and Jeremiah, let's do some takes for you where you say you've been playing him the whole time. And they never had to use him because, they said the ultimate decision was a shoot from Steve on who he picked in the bottom three. They didn't know. They knew a direction they were leaning towards, but it was ultimately up to him. Just like some of the things almost seemed like they were scripted, and I promise you they weren't. Like Matt Cross, they wanted him to get in the ring with me and do his high flying stuff. They didn't. I do this move. I call a front suplex, and I'll say front suplex, make a table. And then I front suplex him, hit the ropes, jump off his back and do an elbow drop. I called that in the ring, and they are like, all right, stop, because he didn't do any of his stuff. So then he's in the bottom three because he was so passive. And the reason Steve made that decision, and he might not have sent him home, but remember, he goes, permission to speak, sir. And the whole point was that show some assertiveness, and he didn't. And then Steve made that decision. That was a complete on-the-fly decision. So all these things almost seemed like they were scripted, and they weren't. It was a legit shoot, but I was kind of playing that role. The time we were out to dinner with the Bellas and the Divas, they pulled me aside mid-dinner and said, hey, be nice to Christina today in case we need to show a lighter side of you, but make fun of AJ and things like that. So...
I want to go back to you playing a character, and you made the comment that you were the only smart one to actually do that. Now, I follow reality shows even outside of Tough Enough, and I just think that Tough Enough, it was a great combination between reality shows and wrestling, but there's a certain formula that contestants follow, and you can have that on shows like American Idol, The Biggest Loser, The Voice, Dancing with the Stars, whatever it may be. It's be sympathetic. It's make people feel kind of sorry for you to the point where you're pulling at their heartstrings and things like that. Was it a concerted effort for you to play a cocky type character, and what did you think you were going to gain from doing that?
Okay, that's a great question. So I had been wrestling for 5 or 6 years before Tough Enough. And one of the things that I found about modern times, unlike the 80s, where you could be a legit, like, kind of white meat baby face, good looking guy, real nice, and people liked you. In the 90s, and when we entered the Attitude Era into today, people don't like you. If there's one thing in America we love more than a success story, and it's watching someone fall from grace. We love to believe that someone who's attractive and successful must be a dick, because it makes us feel there's no way they could also be a nice guy. We want to believe that they're a dick because we want to see a flaw in them. So I found in my wrestling character that I've been playing on the indies, it was much easier to play into people's stereotypes. I grew up on a farm in Maine. I'm sitting on my pontoon boat right now on a river. Okay. I grew up on a farm in Maine, nice kid, raised by great parents, taught to be generous and loving. People wanted to believe because I gel my hair and they perceive me as attractive that I must be an arrogant, self-absorbed dick. So the reason I played a heel on the show and wanted to portray that character is because that's what I liked playing in wrestling. So I wanted to already build in my wrestling persona into the reality show. So then if I did win, I'd already have a built-in setup heel character that they could roll with. So for me, yeah, it's just easier to get people to hate me than to like me because of my appearance. They stereotype me as like a Jersey boy type of person. And so again, it's just that I just play into people's stereotypes. When John Cena was there, I think this is in the extras, it didn't air. He goes, "Do you like playing a heel or a babyface better?" Round table answer. And we all had to go around and answer. I told them heel because I like people to hate me because it's easier to get people to hate me. His next question was, who does everybody like least in the house? And everybody answered Luke except Jeremiah and Rima, because I had kind of developed already a behind-the-scenes relationship with them. In other words, I just told them basically what I was doing to their faces, and they still weren't smart enough to realize that I was working them. So that's why I did it. It was just a concentrated effort to get people to hate me so I could immediately have a role on TV if I won.
So then it's starting to have this character that you could go forward with. Like, How did your indie career go after that?
So there was a company I worked for in Connecticut where they always, they pitted me against Jerry Lawler, Tommy Dreamer. They'd always put me against, the guys who were going to be the baby faces because they had already been on WWE TV. The only real difference was they was able to make a lot more money after Tough Enough. But again, it worked great on the indies. But at that point, I realized I didn't want to be my dream wasn't to make the WWE anymore. And I had some of the best matches of my life once I just realized it wasn't what I wanted to do. Getting kind of back to the show, though, Andy was legit, not a good guy. You can actually tell a few times. There was one time, this is on an episode, I think towards the end, I went to give him a hug. He's like, no. And then we'd be walking to the training, and he'd be like, there'd be a pond. He'd be like, oh, I wish I could just shoot some fish in there. Just the weirdest stuff to try to be like, I'm a man. I don't hug people. And again, I don't think it's a good enough reason. Steve was dead on when Andy was in the final three. And I genuinely believe this. If you want to be a good dad, being on the road 300 days out of the year is not the way to do it. It's a scapegoat. You know what I mean? You basically don't have to play dad. And again, it was bizarre to me how he said that he was the most athletic person on the show and real athletes who used to play football are the ones who should be wrestlers. And it's there's a whole season of footage that show me as the athletically superior person and him either saying oh no, I'm not good at balance. I'm not good at anything. I'm not good at anything. And the trainer saying the same thing. So it's like, it was a really bizarre thing to me in that finale with Vince. And again, that was all a shoot. We didn't know what Vince would say. We didn't know any of the questions would be asked. And I was very proud of my answer that I promoted myself. When Steve asked me to bash Andy, I didn't. I said, you asked for a superstar. I showed up every day and I gave you that. And then it was Andy's turn. He made himself look like an ass by trying to degrade me on things that we know from watching the season aren't true.
What's so interesting about that is I think the first moment where I actually noticed Andy on the show was, interestingly enough, the time where he kind of busted you in the nose and threw you, 20 feet over the rope.
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny though. But
yeah, and he legit shot a forearm right into my nose. My bloody nose wasn't from hitting the floor; it was from that forearm. And then, secondly, when you shit can somebody from the ring, it's a work. You're mimicking body English. You're letting them take the bump. He didn't. He legit chucked me, put pressure over the top rope, and that's why I way overshot my landing because I was getting tossed over the top rope. And I thought I was going to break my neck. I don't know how I didn't on that. And bizarrely enough, they blamed AJ for Christina's injury, which was like so bizarre to me. And they actually made him believe it. It's like she landed and twisted her tiny little ankle. He did nothing wrong. And they made him believe that it was his fault.
That was the one thing I saw. It's like, okay, if anything, he was too close, but he wasn't moving when she jumped.
Correct. It was a bizarre thing that they blamed him. And it's only because she was also already under contract before the show. So she was kind of like a golden girl.
Speaking of people under contract, how do you feel about them bringing in, I guess on the show she would have been Ariane?
Yeah.
Like bringing her into WWE out of everybody in that entire season.
Well, so here's the thing about the WWE. They do not want people who for the most part, they do not want people who like wrestling. They don't want you to be too much of a mark, be too starstruck. They love it if you don't want to be there. They I almost feel like they get off on it. Like if you don't want or care about wrestling. And I think it's because they know that they can kind of either one mold you or that you'll be a sheep, like whatever you want them to do, because you don't really, you don't really care. It's like, whatever. Okay. I just want to be on TV. I'll do whatever you want me to do. I just want to be on TV. This is another thing that hurts my heart. She got an OUI and then tried to bribe the cop and lied on the police report about her name. And they just gave her like a 2-week suspension and nothing else. So it's like, again, for a company, I'm not saying, like I said, I still watch the WWE. It's still meaningful to me. I still love it as a form of entertainment. But if parents, I feel like if they knew behind the scenes, like this person got an OUI, tried to bribe the cop and lied in the police report. And by the way, now she has her, she's on a TV show that influences millions of young women around the world, that I don't think they'd feel very good about that. The Bellas, same thing. I did a show with them after they had not renewed their contract a few years ago. And they said, they didn't let us do anything. We want to pursue acting. We want to pursue fitness. We're never going back there. And as soon as that didn't work out, they went right back. And now they're on a reality show where they're promoting they both have abs and they're like, I'm so fat. Let's do a cleanse. Let's starve ourselves. And as my business is primarily working with women who have dealt with body issues for decades. And why do they do that? Because of mainstream media, like these women with abs who are complaining about their bodies and they see them starving themselves. So they have a chance to influence millions of young women. And instead, all they're doing is messing up another whole generation of young women to think that their value should be dictated by whether or not they have abs or not. Again, I don't mean to bash on people, but they're in such a powerful position to make positive change in the world. And sometimes they neglect that because it's cool to be on TV, quote unquote.
Now that you got back into your business of like your fitness company, you want to talk about that really quick?
Yeah, please. So I do almost everything outside, like I said, right on my property. It's a riverside property in Maine. We're underneath big pine trees. And so my business is centered around getting people to basically relearn how to play. So play outside like kids again. So we'll do stuff like we'll deadlift cinder blocks and rocks and logs, and then they crawl to the next station and things like that. And we just actually did a WWE themed Primal Fitness class, which is a Sunday morning class that I do where it's men, women, children. I set up things to be adjustable for all fitness levels. And so we'll do some things like that where I encourage people to dress up. We basically, again, relearn how to play, because I believe that you don't stop playing because you grow old. You grow old because you stop playing. It's been incredibly successful. It's grown every year. And again, I loved wrestling because I love storytelling and helping, giving people something to believe in. I fell in love with it because of the Rock and the Mankind storyline, and seeing Mankind be this lovable loser finally achieve his dream. And so basically that's what I get to do with my fitness business. I still get to teach people how to play. I still get to tell stories. You know, we always are cranking music. We're always joking around, and it's just a positive atmosphere for people to get healthy, happy, and to become a better person. So on Instagram, we're Wolfpack Wild. On Facebook, if you just go Wolfpack Worldwide or Wolfpack Fitness in the search, you'll pull us right up. I always post a ton of pictures, ton of videos. I think it's a really cool way for people to see that fitness can be fun. It can be playful, and it can be something that doesn't have to be torturous in your life. It can be a positive part of your life. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Again, I wouldn't change a thing. Not winning Tough Enough in the end ended up being one of the biggest blessings in disguise in my life. And I believe that the happiest people, I don't believe that things happen for a reason. I believe that the happiest people make a reason for that to have happened. So I don't believe I was meant to lose Tough Enough. I think my life would have been great if I had won it, but instead I had to find a reason for myself to have lost. And what I ended up creating was the business that I have now. And again, I think all my clients, they become close friends. In a way, they're kind of happy that it didn't work out because we wouldn't have each other in our lives now.
Wow, that's an amazing message to send. And I'd say congratulations to everything that you've accomplished outside of Tough Enough. And it's great to see, even though things didn't go out the way that you planned, the fact that you're still successful and pursuing something that you have a great passion for.
Thank you so much, guys. And again, I really appreciate this opportunity to kind of tell the story in full. It really means a lot. And again, I don't expect anything to come of it besides, like you said, a positive message. And equality is important to me, whether it be men, women, gay, lesbian, transgender. It's like that should not dictate whether you're allowed to pursue your dreams or not. That's the bizarre thing when people are like, oh, did you hear that Luke's gay? And it's like, if I was, what does that mean? People tell more about themselves when they say stuff like that than they tell about the person. In other words, if they think it should mean that they are not suddenly allowed to pursue their dreams, it shows that they're probably not a good person that you want to be around. It doesn't say anything about the person they're talking about. But again, I really appreciate the opportunity to share a positive message and to tell my story. So thank you, guys.
Well, I do have one quick question for you,
Absolutely.
Though, because you're in a position right now where you can share a positive message because you not only are a fan, but you have experienced Tough Enough before. And since you still watch, I'm pretty sure you know that in a few weeks, they're going to start a new season of Tough Enough.
Absolutely.
Knowing all of the politicking and the meddling and things that happen behind the scenes on your season, do you have any advice for anyone who may be listening right now that will end up on next season of Tough Enough?
Yeah. So number one, like I said, always remember that you should be kind of playing a character. Like, don't take it too seriously in a good way. Take it seriously that when you're working, but all the video submissions I've watched, I think a lot of people are like taking it way too seriously. One of my favorite ones was, did you guys see Mark Sherman's? He's out of the Boston area.
I actually did see that.
Yeah, his was hilarious, awesome. That's the type of thing they want to see, where they see that you're just having fun and comfortable playing a fun character and are willing to get outside of your comfort zone. So if you take it too serious and go, this has been my dream since I was 4, I'm tough enough. It's like, okay, they see a million like that, and that's not really what they want to see. For the people who are actually going to be on the show, like I said, remember to always have fun and to play back. If I could change one thing, I would play back. So if I was in the bottom 3, I would have played back with Steve, understanding that he's being a character. So when I was in that bottom 3, or on Raw, I would have been even more of a character and not worried so much about, like, am I being disrespectful? Just play back, be a character, be memorable as far as don't take yourself like, so, behind the scenes when you're in training or something, yeah, you got to be respectful. But anytime you have a chance to be a character, do it, take it, and make yourself, again, have fun, I guess. I took a lot of things too seriously when I was on it because I didn't understand even as much as I didn't understand that it was important to play the heel character, I would have taken it to another level. So anybody who's going to be on next season, take it to that big level, be over the top in the right way. I know that's kind of vague, but just like have fun and get your stuff in, do it. Don't leave anything back. Don't go, well, I would have shown that. They want you to just lay it all out there. So just go for it. Be over the top, be a character.
Well, hopefully somebody gets something positive out of that message. And I have to thank you because I said the floor is yours and you really showed up and showed out. So once again, thank you, Luke Robinson.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you so much.